session, we are going to discuss the introduction to the chapter absorption. So this is the disclaimer for the viewers. So the learning objectives, that is, you will be able to define absorption, you will be able to describe mechanisms of drug absorption, you will be able to discuss factors influencing drug absorption through gastrointestinal tract, you will be able to explain absorption of a drug from non-peroral extravascular routes, and you will be able to apply gain knowledge for design and development of dosage forms and for optimization of patient therapy. Think on the last learning objective, which is very important. Whatever you are gaining the knowledge from the first 4 points, you have to supposed to apply these things for design and development of the dosage form, and furthermore you should apply the things for the optimization of patient therapy. So in the today's session, or we are going to discuss the definition of absorption, then process of drug absorption through gastrointestinal tract, then common routes of drug administration, and the mechanisms of drug transport with their examples. So very first question in mind, what is mean by the drug absorption? Look at the figures. Suppose that we have given the solid dosage form. So after ingestion, it reaches into the stomach. The formulation gets disintegrated. From the disintegrated particles, the drug, it is going to be dissolved into the stomach, and furthermore the content is either emptied, or whatever the released drug from the stomach and the small intestine, it is going to be reached into the liver via hepatic portal vein. Simultaneously, the drug, it is going to be eliminated due to the first pass metabolism as well as through the kidneys. So the absorption, it is nothing but the irreversible movement of drug from site of administration into the systemic circulation, that is known as the absorption. So absorption, it is nothing but a irreversible movement of drug from site of administration to the systemic circulation, that is known as the absorption. So let us see the definition of drug absorption. So it is a process of irreversible movement of unchanged drug from site of administration to the systemic circulation, that is known as the absorption. And as I have said that it is not always possible to measure the concentration of drug at a target site. That's why the definition of drug absorption furthermore modified to the process of irreversible movement of unchanged drug from the site of administration to the site of measurement. Site of measurement, it is always the systemic circulation. Suppose that, take an example. Suppose that we have selected the 3 formulations of a same drug and we have given it by the oral route of administration. So here the graph shows on a y-axis it's a plasma concentration, and on the x-axis it's a time. So when we are plotting the graph of PDC to T, there are, as I have said, that there are 3 formulations are there, and you are observing the curve. There is a, say for example, this is the curve for the solution, this is the curve for the tablet, and this is the curve for the tablet, and this is the curve for the modified release dosage form. There is a vast differences in the curve, irrespective of it contains the same moiety or the same medicament, isn't it? We are getting the variation in the absorption of the drug. So there is a need to understand the various factors which are going to affect the absorption of a drug from the gastrointestinal tract. as well as there is need to understand how the drug it is going to be absorbed into the systemic circulation. Let us see the common routes of drug administration. Look at the slide. So broadly, the routes of administration are classified as the parenteral route of administration, then the enteral route of administration, and some other routes. In the parenteral route, mainly we are using the intravenous route, intramuscular route, and the subcutaneous route. Here I have shown the parenteral routes. One that is the intradermal. So the first one that is the intramuscular, second one that is the subcutaneous, third one that is the intravenous into the veins, and the fourth one that is a intradermal. The second route that is known as the enteral route, that is mainly the buccal and sublingual route, then the oral route and the rectal route. Look at the another figure. So here it's a oral route of administration, and we are using so many types of the formulation, including the tablets, capsules, ODTs, buccal tablets, sublingual tablets, mini tablets, effervescent tablets, and so on. In the case of rectal route of administration, we are using the suppositories, enemas, tablets, and so on. And in the case of buccal and the sublingual route, similar to oral route of administration, we are using the formulations like tablets, films, and so on. Then the next route, that is the transdermal route and the inhalation route. Transdermal route, it is also known as the topical route. Topical and transdermal both are different thing. Under the topical, generally the ointment, cream, lotion, gels, sprays, these are under the topical. And the transdermal, that is the transdermal patches, which are categorized under the patches. Topical dosage forms are for the local effect, whereas the transdermal patches are for the systemic effect. Then the inhalation route of administration. So here in the case of inhalation route of administration, generally we are using the dry powders and liquid sprays. And apart from these, we are using the nasal drops and sprays via nasal route. Then the otic cavity, generally the topical, then the intralymphatic and intracochlear. Then the ocular, generally we are using the solutions, emulsions, suspension, ointment, implants, inserts, and so on. So these are the some common routes of the drug administration. Let us see the details of the related with all these routes of drug administration, related with its bioavailability, then the advantages and the disadvantages. Very first one, that is the intravenous route. When the formulation it is given by the intravenous route of administration, generally we are getting the 100% viability, 100% drug absorption is there, because we are putting directly the drug into the systemic circulation, and which is going to be distributed well throughout the body. The advantages of intravenous route, very first one, that the drug is given for the immediate or the controlled effect. As soon as we are injecting the formulation into the systemic circulation, immediately we are getting the effect. It is possible to inject the large fluid volume. If the volume of fluid is very large, also it is possible to inject by using the intravenous route. And furthermore, the intravenous route, it is suitable for the irritating drug which irritates the mucosa, drug which irritates the specific route. These drugs are also suitable for the intravenous route of administration. Moving towards the disadvantages of the intravenous route. Very first disadvantage, that is the increased chance for the adverse reaction. As we are putting the drug into the systemic circulation directly, if the concentration of drug it is just above the therapeutic window, there might be chances of precipitation of some adverse reaction. and it becomes very difficult to withdraw the drug from the systemic circulation. There might be chances of possible anaphylaxis. Then for the specific route, it requires skill in the insertion of the infusion set. And the last one, there may be the chances of tissue damage at a site of injection. So these are the some of the disadvantages related with the intravenous route of administration. Moving towards the intramuscular route. So when the drugs which are given by the intramuscular route, there is a rapid absorption from the aqueous solution. If the formulation which is aqueous in nature, there is a rapid absorption, and if the formulation it is a lipophilic in nature or it is a oily solution, it is going to act as a depot, and there will be the slow absorption of a drug from the site of administration. Moving towards the advantages of the intramuscular route, it's easier to inject than the IV injection. The whatever the intramuscular route is there, it's easy to inject than the intravenous injection. Then larger volumes may be used as compared to subcutaneous solution. It is not at all possible to use the very large volumes like a intravenous injection. But comparatively, when we are comparing the things with the subcutaneous solution, definitely the large volumes can be used for the intramuscular route. Moving towards the disadvantages of the intramuscular route, the there might be the chances of irritation by the drug, and which is very painful. Then variable rates of absorption, and again the rate of absorption, it is depend on the muscle group injected and the blood flow to the specific site. So we are getting the variation in the absorption of a drug when it is given by the intramuscular route of administration. So this is about the intramuscular route. Let us move towards the subcutaneous route. So in the case of subcutaneous route, there is a rapid absorption from the aqueous solution as same like the intramuscular injection, and the slow absorption from the depot formulation. Moving towards the advantages of the subcutaneous route, that is, it is generally used for the vaccines and the drugs which are not absorbed orally. There are few drugs are there which are not absorbed well by using the oral route of administration. In such cases, we are using it is possible to use the subcutaneous route of administration, for example, the insulin. And the main disadvantage of subcutaneous route, that is the rate of drug absorption, depend on the blood flow and the injection volume. So this is about the subcutaneous route. Moving towards the buccal and sublingual route. So when the formulation it is given by either buccal or sublingual route, there is a rapid absorption of a lipid soluble drug or the lipophilic drugs. The main advantage we are getting in the case of buccal and sublingual route, that it is going to avoid the first pass metabolism. And the disadvantages, that is some drug may be swallowed. As we are placing the drug in the oral cavity, whatever the dissolved quantity of drug, it is going to be swallowed and absorbed from the gastrointestinal tract. That is the main disadvantage, and it is not for most of the drugs or drugs with a high doses. It is not possible. Always it is not possible to use the buccal or sublingual route of administration, as there are so many drugs are there which are having the high doses. So this is about the buccal and sublingual route. Moving towards the oral route of administration. When the formulation it is given by the oral route of administration, the absorption it is going to be varied. It may be due to the varying pH, then the anatomical and physiological variability, then the dosage form characteristics, then the physicochemical properties of the drug, which are going to affect the absorption of a drug. Then slow, generally we are getting the slow rate of absorption as compared to the IV or the intramuscular administration. Moving towards the advantages, it is the oral route, it is the safest and easiest route of drug administration. It is convenient. More than 60% of the patients prefer to use the oral route. It is suitable for both immediate release and modified release products. So these are the few advantages of the oral route of administration. Moving towards the disadvantages, there are few drugs are there which are unstable in the gastrointestinal tract. For example, penicillins. There are some drugs are there which undergoes the pre-systemic metabolism. For example, propranolol hydrochloride, or some drug shows the erratic absorption. For example, acyclovir. So these are the some disadvantages of the oral route of administration. Let us see the rectal route of administration. So in the case of rectal route, the absorption of a drug may vary from the formulation, that is a suppository, and it is more, we are getting the more reliable absorption from the enema, that is the solutions, in the case when it is given by the rectal route. Moving towards the advantages of rectal route of administration, it is useful when patient cannot swallow the medication. When the patient is at intensive care and he or she is unable to take the medicine by oral route of administration, in such cases it is possible to use the rectal route of administration. There are certain cases are there in which it is furthermore it is not possible to use the parenteral route of administration also. The rectal route, furthermore, it is used for local as well as the systemic effects or systemic action. Moving towards the disadvantages of the rectal route, we are getting the erratic absorption. There is a variation in the absorption of a drug when the drug is given by the rectal route. Then the suppository may migrate to different positions into the colon, and depending on that, the absorption is going to be changed. And the last disadvantage, that is there will be some patient discomfort. Or so these are the things related with the rectal route of administration. Let us see the transdermal route. In the case when we are using the transdermal route of administration, we are getting the slow absorption, and whatever the absorption rate is there, it is going to be changed or it may be varied. Then the absorption of a drug, it is going to be increased when we are using the occlusive dressing. So when we are using the occlusive dressing, there may be the increase in absorption of a drug by the transdermal route. In the case of transdermal route, generally we are using the transdermal patches. So the patch, moving towards the advantage, so the patch, it is easy to use and withdraw, isn't it? There will be the continuous release of a drug for a specified period. For example, 3 days to the 7 days. In the case of a transdermal route of administration, it is possible to avoid the pre-systemic metabolism of drug. Then it is used for lipid soluble drugs with the low dose and the low molecular weight. That is the main thing related with the transdermal route. Topical route, it is something little difference is there in the topical and the transdermal route. In the case of transdermal route, we are using the patches. In the case of topical route, we are using the jazz, creams, paste, and so on, and it is for the local action. And transdermal route, it is for the systemic action. Moving towards the disadvantages of the transdermal route, that is the some irritation by the patch or the drug, then the variation in the skin permeability as application site, if it is changed, according to that we will get the variation in the skin permeability. And furthermore, the whatever the vehicles which are used in the formulation, they are going to affect the drug release as well as the absorption from the skin. So this is about the transdermal route of administration. Moving towards the next route, that is known as the inhalation route. So in the case of inhalation route, we are getting the rapid absorption, and but whatever the total dose absorbed, it is variable. Moving towards the advantages of inhalation route, it is used for local or the systemic action, local action in the respiratory tract or systemic action. Then moving towards the disadvantages of the inhalation route, the particle size of the drug or the formulation determines the anatomical placement in the respiratory tract. That is a main important thing. That is particle retention. It is depend on the particle size of the formulation or particle size of the drug. Furthermore, this route or these formulation stimulates the cough reflex, and there might be chances of swallowing of the some drug when it is given by the inhalation route. So these are the some or the common routes of drug administration which are widely used to give or to deliver the drug, as these are classified as I have said that enteral route, parenteral route, and topical route. Parenteral route like intravenous, intramuscular, and subcutaneous. Enteral route like a sublingual and buccal, oral, rectal, and some other routes like the transdermal and the inhalation. Let us move towards the gastrointestinal absorption of the drug. Before discussing the gastrointestinal absorption of a drug, there is a need to understand, need to discuss the cell membrane structure and the structure and physiology of the cell membrane. On the slide, I have shown the basic structure of the cell membrane. So for the drug to be absorbed and distributed into the organs and tissues and eliminated from the body, it must pass through one or more biological membranes or the barriers at various locations. And such a movement of drug across the membrane is known as the drug transport. So the movement of drug across the membrane is known as the drug transport. Moving towards the basic structure of functional cell membrane. So it comprises, look at the figure outside here, these are the protein molecules. So here it's a protein molecule which is present over here. So I have shown here the two figures here. So whatever outside is proteins are there, it is also known as the extrinsic protein, and the inside it is known as the intrinsic protein. So the outside the proteins are present. The inner core, it is made up of a phospholipid bilayer. So this is the phospholipid bilayer, that is a bilayer of the lipid, and these are the polar heads. So these are the polar head which oriented towards the outside. So here these are the polar heads, and the inner core of the cell membrane, it is lipophilic in nature. This is the non-polar tail, and here it's a lipid molecule. So whatever the inner core of the cell membrane, it is lipophilic in nature, and outside it is a hydrophilic in nature. So the cellular membrane consists of double layer of amphiphilic phospholipid molecules arranged in such a fashion that their hydrocarbon chains are oriented inwards to form a hydrophobic or lipophilic phase. So here inwards, this is a lipophilic in nature, and polar heads oriented to form a outer side. And as I have said that these are the proteins. This is the aqueous field, aqueous pore, which is having a pore size 4 to 10 angstrom, and the thickness of cell membrane, it is approximately 25 angstrom. So this is about the structure of the cell membrane. Moving towards the mechanisms of drug absorption through GIT. There are so many mechanisms are there by which the drug it is going to be absorbed into the systemic circulation from the gastrointestinal tract. More specifically, I'm going to highlight the gastrointestinal absorption of the drug. As I have said that these mechanisms of absorption are furthermore classified as transcellular transport. It is also known as the intracellular transport. Then the paracellular transport, or it is also known as intercellular transport. And the third one that is known as the vesicular transport. Look at the figure. So very first one, that is the transcellular transport. That is from the intracellular. Within a cell, drug moves from one side to another side. For example, passive diffusion, isn't it? Paracellular or the intercellular transport, that is between the two cells, isn't it? And the last one, that is the vesicular transport, that is the example is the endocytosis. By forming the vesicle, the molecules moves from one side to the another side. So moving towards the very first one, that is the intracellular transport. That is also known as the transcellular transport. So what is mean by the intracellular transport? See, it is simply the passage of drug across the gastrointestinal epithelium, that is known as the intracellular transport or the transcellular transport. For example, it is furthermore divided into the passive transport process and active transport process. First of all, we will see the passive transport processes. The passive transport processes furthermore divided as a passive diffusion, second one pore transport, third one ion pair transport, and fourth one is a facilitated diffusion. Very first case, that is a passive diffusion, more than 90% of drugs which are being absorbed by the passive diffusion mechanism. In the case of pore transport, the drugs like a urea, then the water and sugar molecules which are having a molecular weight less than 100 Dalton, which are going to be absorbed by the pore transport mechanism. The third one, that is a ion pair transport. By forming the ion pair which is having a high lipophilicity, the drug it is going to be absorbed, for example the propranolol. And the last one, that is a facilitated diffusion. Here there is an involvement of the carrier, but the energy is not required. The drugs which are absorbed by this mechanism, for example vitamin B1, B2 and vitamin B12. Vitamin B12, it is absorbed with the intrinsic factor, which is helps to move the vitamin B12 from one side to the another side. Then the active transport processes, which are furthermore divided as the primary active transport and the secondary active transport. The primary active transport furthermore divided into the ion transporters and the ABC transporters, and secondary active transport, which are furthermore divided into the symport and the antiport. Look at the figure here, the second one, that is a carrier mediated transport. Here there is a involvement of the carrier. There is an involvement of the energy for movement of drug from one side to the another side, and that's why it is said to be the active transport mechanism. The examples of the drugs which are absorbed by the active transport mechanism, that is a 5-fluorouracil and 5-bromouracil, and the next drug, that is enalapril, is also absorbed by the active transport process. Moving towards the intercellular transport or the paracellular transport. So the paracellular transport, look at the figure. So here between the cell, these are the tight junctions, and the drug is moved from one side to the another side. It is furthermore divided as a permeation through the tight junctions and the persorption. So the permeation through tight junction, it occurs through opening which are little bigger than the aqueous pore, which are present in the cell membrane. For example, the drugs like insulin and cardiac glycosides, which are absorbed or permeated through these tight junctions. And the persorption, that is through temporary openings formed by the shedding of two neighboring cells, that is known as the persorption. Moving towards the last mechanism, that is known as the vesicular transport or the endocytosis. It is nothing but a transport of drug within the vesicles into a cell. Look at the figure. So initially there is a formation of a pseudopore. This is a drug molecule, formation of vesicle, and drug molecule leaves from the cell into the another side. That is no furthermore, it is known as the endocytosis, and endocytosis, it is furthermore divided into the pinocytosis and the phagocytosis. The pinocytosis, that is the, it is also known as the cell drinking, that is the whatever the this material is there which is to be vesiculated, that is the it is present in the solute fluid solute form. And the phagocytosis, it is furthermore, it is known as the cell eating, that is the solid particles are going to be absorbed by the phagocytosis mechanism. That is the pinocytosis, it is known as the cell drinking, and the phagocytosis, it is known as the cell eating. The examples of the drugs which are going to be absorbed by the vesicular transport or endocytosis, like oil soluble vitamins like vitamin A, D, E, K, then the insulin, then Sabin polio vaccine, botulism toxins, and so many proteins which are going to be absorbed by the pinocytosis or phagocytosis or simply endocytosis mechanisms. So these are the various mechanisms by which the drug, it is going to be absorbed from the gastrointestinal tract. So these are the few references I have referred for the presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.